The crack of bone echoed through the training bay like a gunshot. 40 Marines froze. Master Sergeant Derek Holt stood over her, still gripping her arm, the arm already wrapped in a surgical brace. Lieutenant Commander Maya Reyes didn't scream. She didn't fall. She simply looked at him with eyes that had seen men die in Mosul, adjusted her sling, and said quietly, "That'll be enough." Then she walked out. Perfect posture. No limp. No tears. What happened next would change everything they thought they knew about strength. Before we begin, subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories so you never miss these incredible, true stories of courage. Watch until the end and comment below, where are you watching from today? Let's see how far this story travels. Camp Pendleton, California. Joint Special Operations Training Center. 600 hours. The morning fog rolled off the Pacific and settled over the base like a gray blanket that refused to lift. Maya Reyes stood at the edge of the parking lot, her duffel bag slung over her left shoulder, her right arm locked in a black surgical brace that ran from wrist to elbow. She stared at the building in front of her. Block letters above the entrance read Interbranch Combat Training Facility. Her new assignment. Her new prison. 3 weeks ago, she'd been leading night raids in Mosul. Now she was here reassigned to teach Marines how to fight. The official paperwork called it temporary duty during recovery. Everyone knew what it really meant. Career over. Put her somewhere quiet. Let her fade out. Maya took a breath and walked toward the entrance. Inside the facility hummed with activity. Recruits jogged past in formation. Instructors barked orders. The smell of sweat and floor polish filled the air. A young petty officer at the front desk looked up from his computer. His eyes went straight to her brace, then back to her face. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes, that's right. That's... Colonel Whitmore is expecting you, ma'am. Down the hall, last door on the left." Maya nodded and headed down the corridor. She passed walls covered with unit photos, commendations, and motivational posters. One caught her eye. A warrior's strength is measured by what they overcome. She almost laughed. Colonel James Whitmore stood when she entered his office. He was 62, silver-haired, with the kind of weathered face that came from decades of service. His handshake was firm but careful. He'd noticed the brace, too. "Lieutenant Commander, welcome to Pendleton." "Thank you, sir." "Sit down, please." Maya lowered herself into the chair across from his desk. Whitmore studied her for a moment before speaking. "I've read your file, the parts that aren't blacked out anyway." Maya said nothing. "Mosul, the raid on the Al-Rashid compound. 2 operators killed. You took a bullet to the vest and a piece of shrapnel to the arm while extracting a wounded teammate. Carried him 400 meters to the extraction point." "I did my job, sir." Whitmore leaned back. "Your job?" "Right." He paused. "The doctors say you'll regain full mobility in 6 to 8 months. Until then, you're mine." "I understand." "Do you—" Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "This facility trains Marine sailors and special operators from every branch. We have instructors who've been here for years, men who've built their reputations on a certain approach to combat training." Maya met his gaze. "You mean men who won't like taking orders from a woman?" Whitmore didn't blink. "I mean men who believe strength is the only thing that matters. You're going to challenge that belief. Some of them won't handle it well." "I've handled worse, sir." "I know you have." Whitmore stood and walked to the window. "There's one instructor in particular you should know about. Master Sergeant Derek Holt, Marine Corps, 23 years of service, 6 combat tours. He runs the primary combatives program here. And he's the best hand-to-hand instructor in the Pacific Fleet. He's also convinced that his program is the only thing standing between these recruits and body bags. Whitmore turned back to face her. He sees you as a threat. Maya raised an eyebrow. Me, a threat to him. Your methodology, control over force, precision over power. The things you learned in... He paused, choosing his words carefully. In your previous assignment, Holt believes combat is about domination. You believe it's about something else. I believe dead operators don't win wars, sir. I believe the one who controls the fight controls the outcome. Whitmore nodded slowly. Then you're going to have a problem, because Holt has friends here, lots of them, and they're not going to make this easy for you. Maya stood. I didn't come here for easy, Colonel. I came here to do a job. Good. Whitmore extended his hand again. Because the job starts in 45 minutes. Reflex Bay 3. You've got 32 Marines waiting to see what the Navy sent them. Maya shook his hand and turned toward the door. One more thing, Lieutenant Commander. She paused. That tattoo on your arm. The falcon. Maya's hand instinctively moved toward her left sleeve, where the black ink was barely visible beneath the fabric. There are people on this base who know what that means, Whitmore said quietly. Holt isn't one of them, but I am. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Recognition, respect, understanding. Watch your back, Whitmore said. That's not a suggestion. Maya nodded once and walked out. The Reflex Bay was a 40 by 60 space with padded floors, mirrored walls, and fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry insects. 32 Marines stood in loose formation, their ages ranging from 19 to 35. Most of them looked bored. A few looked curious. None of them looked impressed. Maya entered through the side door and walked to the center of the mat. She set down her clipboard and faced them. I'm Lieutenant Commander Maya Reyes. Starting today, I'll be teaching you how not to die. A ripple of amusement passed through the group. You think that's funny? Silence. Good. Because in the next 8 weeks, you're going to learn something that might save your life. You're going to learn that the strongest person in a fight isn't always the biggest. The winner isn't always the one who hits hardest. The survivor, she paused, letting the word hang, is the one who controls the outcome. A hand went up. Young Marine, maybe 22, built like a linebacker. Ma'am, permission to speak freely. Go ahead. What happened to your arm? The question hung in the air like smoke. Every eye in the room went to her brace. Maya didn't flinch. I caught some shrapnel in Mosul. It'll heal. So you can't fight. I can fight just fine, Corporal. I just can't fight stupid. She took a step toward him. What's your name? Morrison, ma'am. Tell me, Morrison. How much do you weigh? 220, ma'am. And you think that matters? Morrison shifted uncomfortably. In a fight? Yes, ma'am. It matters. You're wrong. Maya turned to address the entire group. Weight matters in a gym. Muscle matters in a competition. But in combat, real combat, what matters is this. She tapped her temple. What matters is knowing where your opponent is going before he knows it himself. What matters is making him fight your fight, not his. She walked to the whiteboard and picked up a marker with her left hand. Force is loud. Control is silent. The man who controls the angles controls the outcome. The one who owns the timing owns the fight. She drew a simple diagram, 2 circles, one larger than the other, with arrows indicating direction of movement. When someone bigger than you attacks, they bring their own imbalance. Your job isn't to stop them. Your job is to finish the motion they already started." A voice came from the back of the room. Deep. Mocking. "That's a nice theory, ma'am, but theory doesn't win fights." Maya turned. Master Sergeant Derek Holt stood in the doorway, arms crossed over a chest that looked like it had been carved from stone. He was 47, 6'3", 240 pounds of muscle and attitude. His jaw was square, his eyes were cold, and his smile had absolutely no warmth in it. "Sergeant Holt," Maya said evenly, "I don't recall inviting you to my class." "Your class?" Holt walked forward slowly, each step deliberate. "Last time I checked, this was my facility. My program, my Marines. Last time I checked, Colonel Whitmore assigned me to this rotation. Whitmore assigned you to observe, to assist, not to fill these boys' heads with Navy philosophy about control and angles." He stopped 3 feet in front of her. "In the real world, ma'am, the bigger man wins. The stronger man wins. That's not opinion. That's physics." Maya didn't back up. "Physics also says that a lever can move any weight if the fulcrum is in the right place. Is that what they taught you in your fancy special warfare courses, lever tricks? They taught me how to survive, and how to make sure the people around me survived too." Holt's eyes went to her brace. "Looks like maybe you missed a lesson or two." The Marines shifted uncomfortably. Even they knew that was a line. Maya's voice stayed perfectly calm. "I missed a piece of shrapnel that was meant for my teammate's head. I caught it instead. He went home to his wife and daughter. I got a brace and a new assignment." She paused. "I can live with that." Holt's smile flickered just for a moment. "Touching story, ma'am, but stories don't teach Marines how to fight." "No," Maya agreed. "Demonstrations do." She turned to the group. "Morrison, you asked if I could fight. Come here." Morrison hesitated, looking from Maya to Holt and back. "That's an order, Corporal." Morrison stepped forward onto the mat. He was nearly twice her size, young and strong and nervous. "Grab my wrist," Maya said, extending her left arm. "Try to hold me in place." Morrison reached out and wrapped his massive hand around her wrist. His grip was solid, unbreakable. For exactly 1 second. Maya didn't pull away. She rotated her wrist 45 degrees, stepped to her left, and suddenly Morrison's grip was working against him. His own strength pulled him off balance. She guided his momentum in a gentle arc, and before he could adjust his knee, hit the mat. He looked up at her, stunned. "That wasn't strength," Maya said to the room. "That was direction. His force was working for me, not against me." She offered Morrison her hand and helped him up. "Again," she said. This time he came faster, tried to grab with both hands. Maya slipped to the side, redirected his arms, and used his forward momentum to spin him past her. 2 seconds later, he was on his back, staring at the ceiling. "Control," Maya said. "Timing, angles." The Marines were silent now. No more smirking, no more boredom. Maya helped Morrison up again and turned to face Holt. "Any questions, Sergeant?" Holt's jaw tightened. The mockery was gone from his eyes, replaced by something harder. "Very impressive, ma'am. You dropped a 22-year-old who wasn't trying to hurt you." He rolled his shoulders. "Maybe you'd like to try that on someone with actual experience." The challenge hung in the air. Maya met his gaze without blinking. "Not today, Sergeant. Today is about fundamentals." "Of course." Holt's smile returned, but it was different now, calculating. "Maybe another time then, when you're feeling up to it." He turned and walked out without another word. The room exhaled. Maya looked at the Marines staring at her. "Back to work. Partner up. We're drilling wrist escapes for the next hour." As they moved into pairs, she caught Morrison looking at her. Ma'am? Yes. That thing you did. Can you teach me that? For the first time all morning, Maya smiled. That's why I'm here, Corporal. By 1800 hours, the base had developed its own ecosystem of rumors. In the mess hall, Marines huddled over trays of meatloaf and talked in low voices. She dropped Morrison like he was nothing. One hand, one arm in a brace. I heard Holt walked out looking like someone spit in his coffee. You think she's for real? Or just smoke and mirrors? I don't know, man. But did you see the way she moved, like she knew where he was going before he did? At a corner table, a staff sergeant who'd done 3 tours in Afghanistan stirred his coffee and listened. What do you think, Staff Sergeant Rivera? Rivera looked up. He was 41, with gray at his temples, and the kind of tired eyes that came from too many firefights. I think, he said slowly, that you boys should pay attention tomorrow, and I think you should be real careful about what you say around Holt's people. Why's that? Rivera took a sip of his coffee. Because that woman has a falcon tattoo on her left arm, and I've only seen that ink one other place. Where? Rivera set down his cup. On my brother's arm. He was Dev Gru, Tier 1. He didn't talk about what he did, but he had that same bird. He paused. He's dead now. Killed in a raid that never officially happened. The table went quiet. You think she's... I think, Rivera said, standing up, that Sergeant Holt has no idea what he's playing with. Maya's quarters were a small room in the officers' barracks, a bed, a desk, a closet, and a window that looked out over the parade ground. She'd been in worse places. She sat on the edge of the bed and unwrapped the brace, examining her arm. The scar ran from her wrist to her elbow, a jagged line of pink tissue that was still healing. The doctors said she was lucky. The shrapnel had missed the major arteries by millimeters. Lucky. She flexed her fingers, watching the muscles respond. The movement was still stiff, still painful, but it was there. 6 months ago, they'd told her she might never regain full use of the arm. Now she was proving them wrong, one day at a time. There was a knock at her door. Come in. The door opened to reveal a young woman in Navy fatigues. Lieutenant Jennifer Okoye, according to her name tag. She was maybe 26, dark-skinned, with intelligent eyes, and a nervous smile. Lieutenant Commander, I'm your assigned aide for this rotation. Lieutenant Okoye. Maya nodded. At ease, Lieutenant. What can I do for you? Okoye stepped inside and closed the door behind her. I wanted to give you a heads up, ma'am, about Sergeant Holt. What about him? He held a meeting tonight. His instructors, some of the senior NCOs who are loyal to him. I don't know everything that was said, but... She hesitated. He's not happy about you being here. And he's got friends in places that matter. Maya leaned back against the wall. What kind of friends? The kind who can make paperwork disappear. The kind who can schedule random evaluations that somehow always go badly for people Holt doesn't like. Okoye took a breath. Ma'am, the last instructor who challenged his program was transferred out within 3 months. Medical reasons, officially. But everyone knew the real story. What happened? He got hurt during a training exercise. Sparring match that got out of hand. Holt's people said it was an accident. But the guy's knee never healed right. He's pushing papers at a desk in Virginia now. Maya was quiet for a moment. Why are you telling me this, Lieutenant? Okoye met her eyes. Because I've watched your class recordings, ma'am. The ones from your previous duty station. The ones that aren't classified. She paused. What you teach, it's different. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being smart, being controlled. That's what these recruits need to learn, not just how to throw a harder punch. And you think Holt is going to try to stop me from teaching that? I think he's going to try to make you look incompetent, or dangerous, or both. Okoye's voice dropped. I think you need to be careful, ma'am. Really careful. Maya looked at her for a long moment. Thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate the warning. Okoye nodded and turned to leave. One more thing, Maya said. Okoye paused at the door. You said you watched my class recordings, the ones that aren't classified. Maya's voice was soft. Did you try to access the ones that are? Okoye's cheeks flushed. I was curious, ma'am, but they're locked down tight, beyond my clearance. There's a reason for that. Yes, ma'am. I figured as much. Maya stood and walked to the window. Outside, the last light of day was fading over the Pacific. Tell me something, Lieutenant. You ever heard of Task Unit Falcon? Okoye's breath caught. I've heard rumors. Nothing concrete. Maya was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was distant, as if she were talking to someone who wasn't there. There were 3 of us in that photo. Me and 2 others. The best operators I ever served with. She touched the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. One of them died pulling me out of a burning building in Yemen. The other one took a sniper round in Mosul. The same night I got this. She touched her arm. I'm sorry, ma'am. Don't be sorry. Be smart. Maya turned back to face her. Holt thinks I'm just some injured Navy officer they sent here to fill a slot. He thinks I'm weak because I can't use my right arm. He thinks I'm vulnerable because I'm a woman in his world. She took a step toward Okoye. He's wrong about all of it, but I'm not going to convince him with words. I'm going to convince him with results, and when he tries to stop me because he will, I'm going to be ready. Okoye swallowed. What do you need from me, ma'am? Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and if you hear anything about Holt's plans, you come to me first. Understood? Understood. Maya nodded. Dismissed, Lieutenant. Okoye left, closing the door softly behind her. Maya turned back to the window. The sun had set now, leaving only darkness and the distant lights of the base. She thought about the photo in her locker. 3 faces, 2 crossed out with a Sharpie. She thought about the falcon on her arm and what it meant, what it had cost. And she thought about Derek Holt and the way he'd looked at her in that training bay, like she was a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. He didn't know who she was, what she'd done, what she was capable of. But he would. Sooner or later, they all learned. The next morning, Maya was on the perimeter track at Oro 500, the sky still gray with pre-dawn light. She ran with the brace strapped tight, her left arm pumping steadily, her breathing controlled and even. The path wound along the edge of the base past barracks and motor pools and training facilities, still dark and empty. She wasn't alone. Staff Sergeant Rivera fell into step beside her, about a mile in. He didn't say anything at first, just matched her pace, his boots crunching on the gravel in rhythm with hers. You're up early, Maya said. Couldn't sleep. Rivera kept his eyes forward. Mind if I run with you? Free country. They ran in silence for another quarter mile. I heard what happened yesterday, Rivera said finally. The thing with Morrison, and with Holt. Word travels fast. Always does, especially when someone new shakes things up. Rivera glanced at her. You know Holt's not going to let that slide, right? I'm counting on it. Rivera nodded slowly. I figured as much. He paused. Listen, I don't know exactly what you did before this assignment. I know you were special warfare. I know your file is mostly black ink, and I know that tattoo on your arm means something. Maya didn't respond. My brother had the same one. He was DevGru. We didn't talk about his work, but I knew enough to know that people who wear that bird have seen things the rest of us can't imagine. Your brother sounds like a good man. He was. Rivera's voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. He died 8 years ago. A raid that never made the news. They gave my mother a flag and told her to be proud. I'm sorry. Don't be. He knew the risks. He accepted them. Rivera looked at her directly. The point is, I know who you are. Or at least I know what you represent. And I want you to know that not everyone on this base is in Holt's corner. Maya slowed her pace slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because Holt's been running this place like his personal kingdom for too long. His methods work, I'm not saying they don't, but they're not the only way. And the people who question him have a way of disappearing. Rivera's jaw tightened. I'm tired of watching good instructors get pushed out because they won't kiss his ring. So you're offering to help. I'm offering to watch your back. Quietly, if you want. Maya considered him for a long moment. The morning light was growing stronger now, picking out the lines on his face, the gray in his hair. I appreciate that, Staff Sergeant. More than you know. There's something else. Rivera lowered his voice. Holt's been talking to some people in the training command, trying to get your assignment shortened, or terminated. On what grounds? Physical readiness. He's arguing that someone with your injury shouldn't be teaching combatives. Says it's a safety issue. Maya almost laughed. A safety issue. That's the angle he's playing. If he can get the medical officer to sign off on a reevaluation, he can push to have you pulled. And you think he'll succeed? Rivera shook his head. I think he's underestimating you. But I also think he's willing to play dirty to get what he wants. So watch yourself. They reached the end of the perimeter loop. Maya stopped, barely breathing hard. Thank you, Rivera, for the warning, and for the offer. Rivera nodded. Just do me a favor, Commander. What's that? When you take Holt down, and you will make it count. Maya smiled slightly. I intend to. Rivera headed off toward the barracks. Maya watched him go, then turned toward the reflex bay. It was time to get to work. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Maya taught her classes, drilled her recruits, and watched Holt watch her. He didn't come to her sessions directly, that would have been too obvious, but she saw his people lurking at the edges, observing, taking notes. She caught the whispers in the hallways, the pointed looks in the mess hall. The campaign had begun. On Thursday, a training evaluation appeared on her schedule. Unannounced. Required. Captain Marcus Webb, the base medical officer, arrived at her classroom with a clipboard and a barely concealed smirk. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, I've been asked to conduct a physical readiness assessment. Maya set down her marker. On whose authority? Training Command. There have been concerns raised about your ability to perform instructor duties with your current injury. The Marines in the room shifted uncomfortably. They'd been with her for 4 days now. They'd seen what she could do. Fine, Maya said evenly. What does the assessment involve? Webb consulted his clipboard. Basic combatives demonstration. You'll need to execute standard defensive techniques against a live opponent. Using both arms, standard protocol, Lieutenant Commander, unless you're requesting a medical exemption. There it was. The trap. If she asked for an exemption, Holt would use it against her. If she proceeded and failed, same result. Maya looked at Webb, then at the Marines watching with held breath. No exemption, she said. Let's do this. Webb's smirk faltered slightly. He hadn't expected her to agree so quickly. Very well. Corporal Morrison, you've been selected as the demonstration partner. Morrison stepped forward, looking uncomfortable. He'd trained with Maya for 4 days. He knew what she was capable of, and he knew this was rigged. Ma'am, he said quietly. I don't... It's all right, Corporal. Just do what the captain says. Webb positioned them on the mat. Standard grab defense. Morrison will attempt to secure a hold. You will demonstrate escape technique. Maya nodded. Her right arm hung at her side, useless in its brace. Her left hand was relaxed, open. Begin. Morrison came at her slowly, hesitantly. He reached for her shoulder. Maya didn't wait. She stepped into his reach, redirected his arm with her left hand, pivoted, and used his own momentum to spin him off balance. He stumbled past her and had to catch himself. Again, Webb said, his voice tight. Morrison came faster this time. Maya dropped her weight, slipped under his grab, and came up behind him. A gentle push sent him stumbling forward. Again! This time Morrison committed. He lunged with real intent, trying to grab her with both arms. Maya moved like water. She guided his right arm past her body, stepped to the outside, and applied a simple wrist lock that brought him to his knees. He tapped immediately. The room was silent. Webb stared at his clipboard like it had betrayed him. Assessment complete, he said finally. Results will be filed with training command. He turned and left without another word. Maya helped Morrison to his feet. You did fine, Corporal. Ma'am, that was... He shook his head. He wanted you to fail. I know. But you didn't. Maya adjusted her sling. That's the thing about people who underestimate you, Morrison. They keep being surprised when you don't cooperate. She turned back to the whiteboard. Now, where were we, Buck? That evening, Maya sat alone in the reflex bay after everyone had left. The lights were dimmed, the mats cleaned and straightened. She practiced one-handed techniques in the silence, her body moving through sequences she'd learned years ago in places that didn't have names. The door opened. Holt walked in. He didn't say anything at first, just watched her move through the forms. His arms crossed his face, unreadable. Maya finished the sequence and turned to face him. Sergeant Holt, something I can help you with. That stunt today, with the assessment. What stunt? I passed a required evaluation. Holt stepped closer. You know what I mean. You made Webb look like a fool. Webb made himself look like a fool. I just answered his questions. Holt's jaw tightened. You think you're clever. You think you can come onto my base, into my facility, and change the way things work. I think I'm here to do a job. The same as you. No. Holt shook his head. Not the same as me. I've been here for 7 years. I've trained thousands of Marines, men who went downrange and came home because of what I taught them. What have you done? Maya met his eyes. Things I can't talk about, in places you've never been. Right. The mystery woman with the classified file. Holt's voice dripped with contempt. Let me tell you something, Commander. I don't care what's in your file. I don't care what letters are behind your name. I care about results. And your fancy techniques, your control and angles, they don't work in the real world. They worked well enough to get me home from Mosul. Did they? Holt glanced at her brace. Doesn't look like it from where I'm standing. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger. Something older. Something patient. Is there a point to this conversation, Sergeant, or did you just come here to insult me? Holt smiled. It was the smile of a man who thought he'd already won. The point is this. I'm going to give you one chance. Leave. Request a transfer. Go push papers somewhere quiet where you can't do any damage. If you stay, you're going to regret it. Is that a threat? It's a prediction. Holt turned toward the door. Ask around about what happened to the last instructor who tried to change things here. Then make your choice. He walked out the door, swinging shut behind him. Maya stood alone in the empty bay, the silence pressing in around her. She thought about Lieutenant Okoye's warning, about Rivera's offer, about the two crossed-out names in the photo that never left her locker. She thought about the falcon on her arm, and what it meant to wear it. And she made her choice. She wasn't going anywhere. The next morning, Maya found her locker open. Nothing was missing. Nothing was damaged. But someone had been through her things. The photo of her team, the one with two names crossed out, had been moved. Just slightly. Just enough for her to notice. She stood there for a long moment staring at those three faces. Herself. Jackson. Morales. Brothers and sister in everything but blood. Someone wanted her to know they'd been here. Maya closed the locker and locked it with steady hands. Then she walked to class like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Lieutenant Okoye caught up with her in the corridor, voice low and urgent. "Ma'am, did you hear about the schedule change?" "What schedule change?" Holt moved the joint evaluation up. "It's happening Friday instead of next month. All instructors have to demonstrate their methods in front of the review board." Maya stopped walking. "Who authorized that?" "Colonel Whitmore signed off on it, but the request came from Holt." Okoye's eyes were worried. "Ma'am, you've only had 1 week with these recruits. The evaluation criteria—" "I know what the criteria are, Lieutenant." "He's setting you up to fail." Maya started walking again. "Then I'll have to make sure I don't." The training bay was already full when she arrived. 40 Marines stood at attention, but something was different today. The energy in the room felt charged. Expectant. Morrison stepped forward before she could speak. "Ma'am, we heard about Friday. Word travels fast. We want you to know." Morrison glanced at the others, getting nods of confirmation. "We've got your back. Whatever you need." Maya looked at them. These young men and women who'd spent the last week learning her methods, who'd started skeptical and were now standing here offering their support. "What I need," she said quietly, "is for you to trust the training. Friday isn't about me. It's about proving that what I've taught you works." "It does work," a young woman in the back called out. Corporal Sarah Chen, one of the smallest in the group, but also one of the quickest learners. "I've sparred with guys twice my size this week. I'm still standing." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief, she was too experienced for that. But something close to hope. "Then let's get to work. We've got 4 days." They trained harder that week than Maya had pushed any group before. 6 hours a day. Drills until their muscles screamed. Techniques repeated until they became reflex. On Tuesday, Holt sent 2 of his instructors to observe. They stood at the edge of the mat with their arms crossed, smirking whenever someone stumbled or fell. Maya ignored them. Her recruits ignored them harder. By Wednesday, the smirks had faded. On Thursday night, Rivera found Maya in the reflex bay after hours. She was practicing one-handed techniques again, her movements fluid and precise despite the brace. "You should be resting," he said. "Big day tomorrow." "I'll rest when I'm dead." Rivera leaned against the wall. "You know what Holt's planning, right, for the demonstration?" "I have a pretty good idea." "He's going to volunteer to be your opponent. Make it personal. Try to embarrass you in front of the review board." Maya didn't stop moving. Her left hand traced patterns in the air, attacks, defenses, transitions. "Let him." "You're not worried. I'm always worried. That's how I stay alive." She finished the sequence and turned to face him. "But worried and scared are different things. I stopped being scared a long time ago." Rivera studied her. "What happened in Mosul? The real story, not the official version." Maya was quiet for a moment. The question hung between them like smoke. We were extracting a high-value target. Intelligence said the building was clear. Intelligence was wrong. Her voice was flat, matter-of-fact. They hit us from 3 sides. Morales went down first. Took a round to the throat. Jackson grabbed him, tried to stop the bleeding. I was on point. She touched her arm, the scar hidden beneath the brace. The shrapnel came from an IED. Someone triggered it remotely when we tried to breach the back exit. I saw it a half-second before it went off. Pushed Jackson out of the way. She paused. He still caught a piece in the back. Severed his spine. Died before the medevac arrived. And you? I carried Morales 400 meters to the extraction point. He was already gone, but I didn't know it yet. Or maybe I did, and I just couldn't accept it. Maya's eyes were distant, looking at something Rivera couldn't see. The mission was a success. We got the target. 2 operators KIA, 1 wounded. She looked at her arm. That's what the report says. Rivera didn't speak for a long moment. I'm sorry, he said finally. Don't be. They knew the risks. We all did. Maya picked up her water bottle and took a long drink. The point is, I've faced worse than Derek Holt. I've lost people I loved. I've bled and kept moving. Tomorrow is just another day. Just another day, Rivera repeated. He shook his head. You're something else, Commander. I'm a survivor. That's all. She went back to her drills, and Rivera watched for a while before quietly leaving her alone with her ghosts. Friday morning arrived, gray and cold. The evaluation room was the largest training space on base, a converted aircraft hangar with enough room for multiple demonstration areas and seating for the review board. Colonel Whitmore sat at the center of the long table flanked by officers from 3 different branches. Clipboards, laptops, stern faces. Maya entered at 0800 exactly. Her recruits filed in behind her, 40 strong, moving with the kind of coordinated precision that spoke to their training. Holt was already there. He stood with his own group of instructors, all of them looking like they'd stepped out of a recruiting poster. Muscles. Confidence. The certainty of men who'd never been truly tested. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, Whitmore called out. Your group will demonstrate first. Standard evaluation criteria. You have 30 minutes. Maya nodded and stepped onto the mat. The next half hour was a blur of controlled violence. Her recruits moved through the demonstrations flawlessly, wrist escapes, leverage throws, defensive positions. They worked in pairs, then groups. They showed how a smaller fighter could neutralize a larger opponent, how timing beat power, how control beat force. Morrison was the star. The linebacker who'd doubted her on day 1 now moved like water, redirecting attacks using his opponent's momentum against them. When he took down a Marine 30 pounds heavier than him, the review board actually leaned forward in their seats. When it was over, Maya's recruits stood at attention, breathing hard but proud. Whitmore made notes on his clipboard. Impressive, Lieutenant Commander. Very impressive. From across the room, Holt's voice cut through the silence. Impressive against each other. But respectfully, sir, I'd like to see how these techniques work against someone who isn't pulling their punches. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Whitmore looked up. What are you suggesting, Sergeant? A live demonstration. Full contact. Commander Reyes's methods against traditional combatives. Holt smiled that cold smile. I'll volunteer as her opponent, unless, of course, her injury prevents her from participating. Every eye in the room turned to Maya. She felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This was it. The trap Holt had been building toward all along. Refuse, and she looked weak. Accept, and she risked everything on a fight with one arm against a man who outweighed her by 80 pounds. But she'd known this was coming. She'd been preparing for it since the night he'd threatened her in the empty training bay. I accept, she said. A murmur ran through the assembled Marines. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "Lieutenant Commander, are you certain, given your current physical condition?" "I'm certain, sir. Sergeant Holt wants a demonstration. I'll give him one." Holt's smile widened. He thought he'd won. He had no idea. They faced each other on the mat. Holt bounced on his feet, loose and confident. Maya stood still, her weight centered, her left hand relaxed at her side. "Standard rules," Whitmore announced. "No strikes to the head or groin. Tap or verbal submission ends the engagement. Are both parties ready?" "Ready," Holt said. "Ready," Maya said. "Begin." Holt came at her fast, faster than she expected. His first grab was aimed at her injured arm, trying to exploit the weakness immediately. Maya wasn't there. She slipped to the left, let his hand close on empty air, and redirected his momentum with a gentle touch to his wrist. He stumbled past her off balance for just a moment. The recruits held their breath. Holt recovered, and came again more carefully this time. He feinted left, then drove forward with his shoulder, trying to bull her down with pure mass. Maya dropped her weight and pivoted. His shoulder met nothing. She guided his arm as he passed, twisted her hips, and suddenly his center of gravity wasn't where he thought it was. He hit the mat hard. The sound echoed through the hangar like a thunderclap. Holt rolled to his feet, his face flushed. That hadn't been part of his plan. "Lucky," he growled. "Technique," Maya replied. He came at her again. And again. Each time she slipped, redirected, controlled. She never struck him, she didn't need to. Every time he committed to an attack, she was somewhere else, and he found himself fighting his own momentum. 2 minutes in, he was breathing hard. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The confidence was bleeding out of his eyes. Maya hadn't broken a sweat. "Stop playing with me," Holt snarled. "Fight for real." "I am fighting for real. You just don't recognize it." Something snapped in him. The frustration, the embarrassment, the months of resentment, it all boiled over at once. He grabbed for her sling, the same move he'd used in that first demonstration. The move that had re-injured her arm. The move that was supposed to prove she was broken. Maya had been waiting for it. She stepped into the grab instead of away from it. Her left hand caught his wrist, her hip dropped, and she rotated her entire body into the movement. The sling pulled tight against his grip, but she was already moving using the tension as leverage. Holt's feet left the ground. He flew through the air and landed flat on his back with a sound like a side of beef hitting concrete. Maya followed him down, her left forearm pressed across his shoulder, her knee controlling his hip. Not choking, not hurting, just holding him in a position where he had no options. "Tap," she said quietly. Holt's face was purple with rage and humiliation. His arms strained against her hold, trying to muscle his way out. It was useless. The geometry was perfect. The more he struggled, the tighter the control became. "Tap," Maya repeated, "or I can hold you here all day." For a long moment he refused, pride screaming louder than common sense. Then finally his hand slapped the mat. Once, twice. Maya released him immediately and stood. The hangar was silent. Absolutely silent. Then Morrison started clapping. Chen joined him. Within seconds, the entire room was on their feet. Recruits, instructors, even some of the review board officers. Holt lay on the mat, staring at the ceiling. He'd been beaten, publicly, thoroughly, by a woman with one arm. Maya extended her hand to him. He stared at it like it was a snake. "Good fight," she said. "You're faster than I expected." For a moment she thought he would refuse, slap her hand away, storm out in fury, but something in his eyes shifted. The rage was still there, but underneath it something else was forming. Something that might eventually become respect. He took her hand and let her pull him up. "You could have hurt me," he said quietly, so only she could hear. That last move, you could have dislocated my shoulder. I know. Why didn't you? Maya looked at him steadily. Because I'm not here to hurt people, Sergeant. I'm here to teach them how not to get hurt. She walked off the mat without waiting for a response. Colonel Whitmore stood as she approached. His face was unreadable, but his eyes held something that looked almost like amusement. Well, he said, I think we've seen enough for one day. The review board filed out. The Marines dispersed, talking in excited clusters. The story of what had happened would spread across the base by lunch. But Maya didn't care about any of that. She found a quiet corner and sat down, finally letting herself feel the exhaustion she'd been holding at bay. Her right arm throbbed beneath the brace. Her body ached from the controlled violence of the demonstration. Lieutenant Okoye appeared beside her with a bottle of water. Ma'am, that was... I don't even have words. Maya took the water gratefully. It was what it needed to be. Holt looked like he wanted to die. He looked like a man who just learned something important. Maya took a long drink. Whether he accepts the lesson is up to him. Okoye sat down beside her. What happens now? Maya stared at the empty mat where she'd just proven everything she believed in. Now, she said, we find out if anything actually changes. 3 hours later, Maya was summoned to Colonel Whitmore's office. He was standing at the window when she entered, looking out at the parade ground where recruits were running drills. Close the door, he said, without turning around. Maya did. That was quite a performance this morning. It wasn't a performance, sir. It was a demonstration. Whitmore turned to face her. His expression was serious, but there was warmth in his eyes. I've been running training facilities for 23 years. I've seen a lot of instructors come through. Some good, some bad, most somewhere in the middle. He paused. I've never seen anyone do what you did today. I had good recruits. You had 4 days. 4 days, and you turned skeptics into believers. Whitmore sat down behind his desk. I want you to know something. The evaluation results have already been submitted. Your methods are being recommended for integration into the standard curriculum. Maya felt something release in her chest. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. You earned it. Whitmore leaned back in his chair. But there's something else we need to discuss. About Sergeant Holt. What about him? He came to see me an hour ago. Put in a request for a reassignment. Maya blinked. He's leaving. He wants to. But I told him no. Whitmore's eyes met hers. I told him that the best thing he could do right now is stay here and learn from the person who just beat him. Sir, with respect, I'm not sure Holt is interested in learning from me. He wasn't. But people change. Whitmore stood and walked around the desk. I'm putting him in your program. Starting Monday, he'll train alongside the recruits. Learn your methods from the ground up. Maya stared at him. You want me to train the man who's been trying to destroy my career? I want you to do what you do best. Teach people that strength isn't about domination. It's about control. Whitmore put a hand on her shoulder. If anyone can get through to him, it's you. Maya thought about Holt's face when she'd helped him off the mat. The confusion, the anger, and underneath it all that tiny spark of something that might become respect. I'll do my best, sir. That's all I ask. Whitmore walked her to the door. One more thing, Commander. Sir, I've submitted a commendation for you, based on today's performance and your conduct since arriving here. He paused. I also made a call to some friends in naval special warfare. They're interested in having you back when your arm heals. Maya's heart stopped for a moment. Back. To the teams. To the work she'd been born to do. Thank you, sir. Thank yourself. You've earned every bit of it. Maya left his office and walked into the afternoon sun. The base was alive around her Marines training trucks rumbling past, flags snapping in the wind. She thought about Jackson and Morales, about the photo in her locker with 2 names crossed out. She thought about what she'd lost and what she still had. And she thought about Holt, who would show up Monday morning expecting to hate every minute of her training. She was going to prove him wrong. She was going to prove all of them wrong, because that's what survivors did. Monday morning came with a cold wind off the Pacific, and Derek Holt standing at the edge of Maya's training mat, his jaw tight enough to crack teeth. He didn't say a word, just stood there, in recruit formation, a 47-year-old master sergeant surrounded by Marines half his age, waiting to be told what to do by the woman he'd tried to destroy. Maya walked past him like he was furniture. Today we're working on defensive positioning against multiple attackers. Partner up in groups of 3. Nobody moved to partner with Holt. The recruits exchanged glances, uncertain. Even Morrison hung back. Maya noticed. Of course she noticed. Sergeant Holt, you're with me. His eyes snapped to hers. Something flickered there. Anger, humiliation, maybe a trace of fear. Ma'am. He stepped onto the mat. Maya positioned herself in the center. Attack me, both arms, full commitment. Both arms. Did I stutter? Holt's jaw tightened further. He came at her with controlled aggression, nothing like the wild fury of Friday's demonstration. He was testing her, probing. Maya slipped his first grab, redirected the second, and had him off balance in 3 seconds. Again. He attacked faster. She moved faster. Again. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His breathing grew ragged. But he kept coming. You're telegraphing with your shoulders, Maya said, stepping past his lunge. Your body announces your intentions before your hands arrive. I've been fighting for 23 years, and you've been telegraphing for 23 years. Again. He came at her with genuine anger this time. Maya used it against him, channeled his momentum into an arc that ended with him on one knee, her hand controlling his wrist. Feel that? She asked quietly. Feel what? The moment you lost control. It happened before you touched me. Right here. She released him and tapped her own temple. You decided to be angry. Anger is loud. I heard you coming from a mile away. Holt stood slowly, rubbing his wrist. The recruits were watching with held breath. What am I supposed to do? Not feel anything. Feel everything. Just don't let it drive. Maya stepped back and reset her stance. Again. But this time breathe before you move. 1 breath. That's all. Holt stared at her for a long moment. Then he took 1 slow breath and attacked. This time Maya had to work for the redirect. His movement was cleaner, more controlled. He still ended up off balance, but it took her 4 seconds instead of 3. Better, she said. It was the first compliment she'd given him since he'd arrived at the base. Holt blinked, surprised. Better. Don't let it go to your head. We've got 3 weeks of work ahead of us. The morning passed in a blur of drills and corrections. By noon, Holt was soaked with sweat and moving with a fluidity Maya hadn't seen from him before. He was learning. Slowly, grudgingly, but learning. During the break, Morrison approached Maya with a bottle of water. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why are you helping him, after everything he did? Maya took a long drink before answering. What did he do exactly? He tried to hurt you. He tried to end your career. He was scared. Maya watched Holt across the room, sitting alone, staring at his hands. Scared people do stupid things, cruel things, but fear can be unlearned. I've seen it happen. And if he can't unlearn it, Then I'll have tried, and that's all anyone can do. Morrison shook his head. You're a better person than me, ma'am. No, I'm just older. You learn things if you live long enough. That afternoon, something changed. Holt was practicing defensive positioning with Chen, the smallest recruit in the group, barely 5'4" and 120 pounds. He kept overpowering her, using his size to muscle through her techniques. You're not listening. Chen snapped, her frustration boiling over. I'm trying to show you the angle, but you keep just what? Fighting like a man, fighting like a bully. The room went silent. Chen had just called a master sergeant a bully in front of 40 witnesses. Maya watched from the edge of the mat, arms crossed. Holt's face reddened. You want to say that again, Corporal? Chen didn't back down. You're not learning because you don't want to learn. You want to prove you're still the strongest one in the room. But that's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Control, which you don't have. Because you're too busy being angry about being here. The silence stretched. Every eye in the room moved between Holt and Chen, waiting for the explosion. It didn't come. Holt stood there breathing hard, his fists clenched at his sides. Something was happening behind his eyes, a battle Maya recognized. Pride versus truth. Ego versus growth. Show me again, he said finally. Chen blinked. What? The angle. Show me again. She hesitated, then positioned herself. Here. When someone bigger grabs you, don't fight the grab. Accept it. Then redirect like this. Maya watched Holt actually listen this time. Actually try. His movements were still rough, but there was something different in them now. Less resistance. More curiosity. After class, he lingered while the other recruits filed out. Ma'am, permission to speak freely. Maya nodded. That corporal, Chen, she's got more guts than half the Marines I've trained. She does. Is that something you taught her? That confidence? Maya considered the question. I taught her that size doesn't determine outcome. She taught herself the rest. Holt was quiet for a moment. I owe you an apology. For what specifically? There's a long list. He almost smiled. Almost. For the arm. For the evaluation. For all of it. He looked down at his hands again. I've been doing this job for 2 decades. I thought I knew everything there was to know about fighting. But watching you work... He shook his head. I don't know anything. That's not true. You know a lot. You just don't know everything. Maya adjusted her sling. Nobody does. That's why we keep learning. Even you. Especially me. Holt met her eyes. Why, you're already the best I've ever seen. Because the day I stop learning is the day I start dying. Maya turned toward the door. Same time tomorrow, Sergeant. We're working on joint locks. Ma'am, she paused. Thank you for not giving up on me. Maya didn't turn around. Thank me when you've earned it. She walked out, leaving him alone with his thoughts and his slowly crumbling pride. The second week brought new challenges. Word had spread through the military community about what had happened at Camp Pendleton. A female Navy SEAL instructor with one working arm had publicly defeated one of the most respected Marine combatives experts in the Pacific Fleet. The story grew with each retelling until Maya barely recognized herself in the versions she heard. Requests started coming in. Observers from other bases. Officers wanting to see her methods firsthand. A reporter from Stars and Stripes asking for an interview. Maya declined the interview. She accepted some of the observers. Among them was someone she hadn't expected. Captain Marcus Webb walked into her training bay on Wednesday morning, the same medical officer who'd tried to evaluate her into failure 2 weeks earlier. He stood at the edge of the mat, clipboard in hand, watching silently as she ran drills. After class, he approached her. "Lieutenant Commander, a moment of your time." Maya's guard went up immediately. "Captain Webb, here for another assessment." "No." He looked uncomfortable. "I'm here to apologize." Maya said nothing. "The evaluation, the way it was handled, that wasn't right." Webb shifted his weight. "Holt asked me to do it. Said there were legitimate concerns about your physical readiness. I should have questioned it more. You should have done your job instead of someone else's dirty work." Webb flinched. "Yes, I should have." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I watched the video of your demonstration, the one from the review." Webb shook his head slowly. "I've never seen anything like it. The control you showed even with your injury, I was wrong about you. Completely wrong." Maya studied him. The shame in his eyes looked genuine. The apology felt real. "Apology accepted," she said finally. Webb exhaled with visible relief. "Thank you, Commander. I won't waste more of your time." He turned to leave. "Captain." He stopped. "The next time someone asks you to do their dirty work, remember what it felt like to be wrong. Let that feeling guide you." Webb nodded once and walked out. Rivera found Maya in the gym that evening, working through her rehabilitation exercises for her arm. The brace was off. She'd been cleared to start strengthening work 3 days ago. Her right hand opened and closed slowly, gripping a stress ball with increasing force. "You're getting stronger," he observed. "Getting there." Maya squeezed the ball again. "Another month, maybe 2, and I'll have full mobility back." "Then what? Back to the teams?" Maya set down the ball. "Maybe, if they'll have me. They'd be fools not to." Rivera sat down on the bench across from her. "Listen, there's something you should know. About Holt." "What about him?" "He's been talking to people. Not the usual people, not his old crew. Different people. Officers he used to dismiss. Instructors from other programs." Rivera paused. "He's been asking questions about your methods. Technical questions, like he's actually trying to understand." Maya absorbed this. "That's good. It's more than good. It's a miracle." Rivera leaned forward. "I've known Holt for 11 years. I've never seen him change his mind about anything. Ever. Not once. But you—" he shook his head. "What did you do to him?" "I didn't do anything. I just showed him there was something he didn't know." "That's it. That's everything." Maya flexed her right hand experimentally. The muscles responded weak but present. Most people stop learning because they think they already know enough. Holt thought he knew everything about combat. I showed him a blind spot. What he does with that information is up to him. And if he goes back to his old ways, then he goes back. I can't control that. I can only control what I teach and how I teach it." Maya stood up. "But I don't think he will. Something broke in him during that demonstration. Pride, maybe, or certainty. Whatever it was, it needed to break." Thursday night, Maya received a phone call that changed everything. Lieutenant Okoye knocked on her quarters at 2100 hours, face pale. "Ma'am, Colonel Whitmore needs to see you, immediately." Maya followed her to the command building, her mind racing through possibilities. Had something happened? Had Holt filed a complaint? Had the commendation been revoked? Whitmore was waiting in his office with 2 men Maya didn't recognize. They wore civilian clothes, but everything about them screamed military intelligence. The way they stood, the way they watched her enter. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes, please sit down." Maya sat. "These gentlemen are from Naval Special Warfare Command. They have some questions for you." The older of the 2 men spoke. "Commander Reyes, what do you know about the Al-Rashid compound raid? Maya's blood went cold. That mission is classified. We know. We're the ones who classified it. The man leaned forward. 6 months ago, you extracted a high-value target from that compound. During the extraction, you lost 2 teammates and sustained significant injuries. I know what happened. I was there. What you don't know is what happened after. The target you extracted, he's been providing intelligence ever since. Good intelligence, the kind that saves lives. The man paused. 3 weeks ago, he identified the cell that ambushed your team, the people who killed your teammates. Maya couldn't breathe. We found them. All 7 of them. A joint task force took them down in Yemen 4 days ago. Why are you telling me this? The second man spoke for the first time. Because one of them talked before he died. He gave us names, locations, a network we didn't know existed. He slid a folder across the desk. And he mentioned something else. A woman, an American operator who fought like nothing he'd ever seen, who took shrapnel meant for her teammate and still carried him out. He said she was the reason the mission succeeded. Maya stared at the folder but didn't touch it. The intelligence community doesn't usually acknowledge individual operators, the first man continued. But what you did in Mosul, the target extraction, the information that followed the network we just dismantled, you're directly responsible for saving an estimated 200 lives. I was doing my job. You were doing more than your job. And we want you back. The words hung in the air like a held breath. Back, Maya repeated. Task Unit Falcon is being reconstituted. New team, new mission focus. We want you to lead it. Maya looked at Whitmore. His face was carefully neutral, but his eyes held something that looked like pride. My arm will be fully healed in 6 weeks according to your latest medical report. We've already reviewed it. The man stood. We're not asking for an answer tonight. Take your time. Think it over. But know this, you're not just being offered a position, you're being offered command. They left the folder on Whitmore's desk and walked out without another word. Maya sat in silence, staring at the folder. Whitmore waited a full minute before speaking. Hell of an offer. Hell of a lot to process. Take all the time you need. The folder contains everything: mission parameters, team composition, deployment timeline. Whitmore stood and walked to his cabinet, pulling out a bottle of whiskey. I think this calls for a drink. He poured 2 glasses and handed one to Maya. I should be asking questions, she said. I should be thinking about logistics, about the team, you're thinking about Jackson and Morales. Maya's hand tightened around the glass. They should be here. They should be getting this offer. But they're not. You are. Whitmore's voice was gentle but firm. You can honor them by saying no and staying safe. Or you can honor them by going back and doing what they would have done. Either way, you honor them. How do I choose? You already know the answer. You've known it since you walked into my office 3 weeks ago with a broken arm and a chip on your shoulder. Whitmore raised his glass. You're a warrior, Reyes. Warriors don't retire. They just find new battles. Maya looked at the falcon tattoo on her arm. The black lines seemed darker somehow, more defined. She thought about Jackson, about Morales, about the photo in her locker with 2 names crossed out. She thought about Holt, slowly learning to be something better than he'd been. She thought about Chen and Morrison and all the recruits who'd believed in her when no one else did. And she thought about the 200 lives that had been saved because she'd refused to quit on that bloody night in Mosul. I need to finish what I started here first, she said finally. Holt, the program. I can't leave it half done. Whitmore nodded. I figured you'd say that. The offer stands for 3 months. Finish your work here, heal your arm, then make your decision. Maya drained her glass and stood. Thank you, Colonel, for everything. Thank yourself. I just opened doors. You walked through them. She picked up the folder and walked out into the night. The stars were bright overhead, scattered across the darkness, like promises. Maya stood in the empty courtyard and let herself feel everything: the grief, the hope, the fear, the determination. Then she walked back to her quarters and started planning. She had work to do. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bed with the folder open, reading every page 3 times. Mission parameters, team composition, deployment timeline, names she didn't recognize, locations she knew too well, task unit Falcon, her team, her command. The weight of it pressed against her chest like a physical thing. At 0430, she gave up on sleep and headed to the perimeter track. The sky was still black stars fading at the edges. Her boots hit the gravel in a steady rhythm, left arm pumping, right arm moving experimentally at her side. The brace was off now. Her fingers flexed with each stride, testing, strengthening. 6 weeks until full mobility. 6 weeks until she had to decide. She was on her 3rd lap when Holt fell into step beside her. Neither spoke for a full minute. Just the sound of boots and breathing, and the distant hum of the bass waking up. Couldn't sleep either, Maya asked finally. Haven't slept right in years. Holt's breathing was controlled, steady. Mind if I ask you something? Go ahead. That demonstration, the one where you put me down. He paused. You could have hurt me, really hurt me, but you didn't. We've been over this. I know what you said. I want to know why, the real reason. Maya slowed her pace. What do you think the real reason is? I think... Holt struggled with the words. I think you wanted to prove something. Not to me. To yourself. Prove what? That you're not what happened to you. That the injury, the loss, the reassignment, none of it defines you. He looked at her directly. Am I close? Maya stopped running. They stood on the track as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon. You're close, she admitted. How do you do it? How do you carry all that and still function? I don't carry it. I move through it. Maya started walking slower now. The people I lost, they're not weights around my neck. They're reasons. Reasons to keep going. Reasons to teach others how to survive. And when the reasons aren't enough... Maya looked at him. There was something raw in his voice, something she hadn't heard before. Then you find new reasons. Or you create them. She paused. What happened to you, Holt, before all this? Before you became the man who needed to be the strongest in every room? His jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Afghanistan, 2009. My unit got hit by an IED. 7 of us in the vehicle. I was the only one who walked away. His voice was flat, emotionless. I spent 6 months in a hospital, another 6 months in therapy. When I finally got back to active duty, I swore I'd never be helpless again, never be the one who survived because of luck. So you became the strongest. I became the one who controlled the outcome. Or so I thought. He laughed bitterly. Then you showed up, with your one arm and your angles and your control, and you made me look like a fool. I didn't make you look like anything. I showed you what was already there. A blind spot. A wound. One you never let heal. Holt stopped walking. His hands hung at his sides, clenched and unclenched. How do I heal it? 17 years, and I still see their faces. Still hear the explosion, still feel the... His voice broke. How do you make it stop? Maya faced him fully. You don't. You learn to live with it. You honor them by becoming someone they'd be proud of. She touched her own arm. I have 2 names tattooed here, right next to the falcon. Most people don't notice them because the bird is bigger. But they're there, Jackson, Morales. Every time I move, every time I fight, every time I teach, they're with me. And that helps. It gives purpose to the pain. That's all any of us can do. They stood in silence as the sun broke fully over the mountains. The base was waking up around them, trucks, rumbling voices calling the machinery of military life grinding into motion. Ma'am, Holt said quietly, I need to tell you something. About the locker. Maya's attention sharpened. What about it? The first week you were here, I had someone go through your things, look for anything I could use against you. He couldn't meet her eyes. They found the photo, the one with the crossed-out names. Maya's blood turned to ice. I didn't do anything with it, but I thought about it, thought about how I could twist it, make you look unstable, traumatized. Holt's voice cracked. I'm telling you because you deserve to know, and because I'm done being that person. For a long moment, Maya didn't speak. The betrayal burned, but underneath it was something else. Recognition. Understanding. Thank you for telling me, she said finally. You should hate me. I should, but hate takes energy I'd rather spend on something useful. Maya started walking toward the training facility. Come on, we've got work to do. Holt followed, and something between them shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet. But the beginning of something that might eventually grow into trust. The third week brought unexpected visitors. Maya was mid-drill when Colonel Whitmore entered the training bay with 2 people she recognized immediately. Admiral Catherine Pierce, commander of Naval Special Warfare, and Captain Thomas Reed, the man who'd recruited her for DevGru 8 years ago. Every Marine in the room snapped to attention. As you were, Whitmore said. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, a word. Maya handed the class over to Rivera and followed the officers to a private briefing room. Admiral Pierce didn't waste time on pleasantries. Commander, I've reviewed the reports from your time here. Impressive work. Thank you, Admiral. I've also reviewed your medical progress. You're ahead of schedule. I've been motivated. Pierce smiled slightly. I can see that. She glanced at Reed, who nodded. We're here to discuss the Falcon reconstitution. In person. Maya's heart rate quickened. I thought I had 3 months to decide. You do, but circumstances have changed. Pierce pulled out a tablet and laid it on the table. 4 days ago, we received intelligence about a coordinated attack being planned against American interests in the Gulf region. Multiple targets, multiple cells, the kind of operation that requires surgical precision. Task Unit Falcon's specialty. Exactly. Pierce met her eyes. We're accelerating the timeline. The team needs to be operational in 6 weeks, which means I need your answer now. Maya stared at the tablet. Maps, photographs, target profiles, the familiar language of warfare. My arm won't be fully healed for another 6 weeks. We know. You'd be in a command role initially. Tactical planning, team coordination, oversight. Field operations would come later once you're cleared. Pierce leaned forward. I'm not asking you to fight with one arm, Commander. I'm asking you to lead. And if I say no, then we find someone else. But we'd prefer you. Pierce's voice softened slightly. Your teammates, Jackson and Morales, they believed in you. They followed you into hell and back. That kind of loyalty can't be manufactured. The new team needs someone who can inspire that same trust. Maya thought about the folder in her quarters, the names she didn't recognize, the people who would become her responsibility. Can I ask why there are other operators, More experienced, fully healed. Captain Reed spoke for the first time. Because of what you've done here. In 3 weeks, you've transformed one of the most resistant training programs in the Pacific Fleet. You've taken a man who tried to destroy you and turned him into a student. You've proven that leadership isn't about dominance. It's about bringing out the best in others. That's what Falcon needs, Pierce added. Not just a fighter. A leader. Maya looked at the tablet again, then at Whitmore, who'd remained silent through the exchange. What do you think, Colonel? Whitmore's expression was unreadable. I think you already know what you're going to do. You've known since the night you got that folder. He was right. She had known. I have conditions, Maya said. Pierce raised an eyebrow. Name them. I finish what I started here first. 2 more weeks. I want to see the program certification through. And I want Holt reassigned not out but up. He's learned more in 3 weeks than most people learn in 3 years. He deserves a chance to apply it. Done. And I want to choose my own team. Every operator, every support role. I won't lead people I don't trust. Pierce glanced at Reed, who nodded. Within operational parameters, yes. Then I'm in. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. No going back. Pierce stood and extended her hand. Welcome back to Falcon, Commander. Maya shook it, feeling the weight of the decision settle into her bones. There's one more thing, Pierce said. The team designation. Falcon was officially decommissioned after Mosul. We need a new call sign. Maya thought about Jackson, about Morales, about the photo with 2 names crossed out. Phoenix, she said. Task Unit Phoenix. Pierce smiled. Rising from the ashes. I like it. The news spread through the base faster than wildfire. By dinner, everyone knew that Lieutenant Commander Maya Reyes was returning to Special Operations, that she'd been given command of a new task unit, that the woman they'd dismissed as broken was going back to the war. Reactions varied. Morrison found her in the gym that evening, working through her rehabilitation exercises with renewed intensity. Ma'am, is it true you're leaving in 2 weeks after the certification? His face fell. You thought what, Corporal? I thought you'd stay. Keep teaching. Keep making us better. Maya set down the weight she'd been curling. Morrison, what did I teach you on day 1? That control beats force. And what else? He thought about it. That the winner is the one who controls the outcome. Right. And sometimes controlling the outcome means knowing when to leave. She picked up the weight again. I've given you everything I know. Now it's your turn to pass it on. But who's going to lead the program? Sergeant Holt. Morrison's eyes widened. Holt? But he's changed. People do that when they're given the chance. Maya finished her set and stood. I've recommended him for my position. Colonel Whitmore agreed. Does Holt know? Not yet. I'm telling him tonight. Maya found Holt in the reflex bay alone, practicing the techniques she'd taught him. His movements were smoother now, more fluid. The raw aggression was still there, but it was controlled. Channeled. Your footwork's improved, she said from the doorway. Holt stopped breathing hard. Ma'am, heard the news. Already? Hard to keep secrets on a military base. He wiped his face with a towel. Congratulations, or condolences. I'm not sure which is appropriate. Neither am I. Maya stepped onto the mat. I need to tell you something. More revelations, I'm not sure I can handle another one tonight. This one's different. Maya faced him directly. I've recommended you to take over the program after I leave. Holt went still. You what? You're the best person for the job. You know traditional combatives inside and out. Now you know control-based methods too. You can bridge both worlds. Ma'am, I tried to destroy your career. I invaded your privacy. You also had the courage to admit it, and to change. Maya's voice was firm. I don't give second chances lightly, Sergeant. Don't make me regret this one. Holt stared at her, speechless. Colonel Whitmore will make it official tomorrow. Starting next month, this program is yours. Maya turned to leave. Don't screw it up. Ma'am. She paused at the door. Why? After everything I did, why would you trust me with this? Maya considered the question. Because I've seen what you can become. And because the recruits deserve an instructor who understands both strength and control. She paused. Also because Jackson would have wanted it this way. He always said the best teachers are the ones who've made the biggest mistakes. Jackson, my teammate, the one who died in Mosul. Maya touched her arm where his name was tattooed beneath the falcon. He believed in second chances, too. Said everyone deserves the opportunity to be better than their worst moment. And you believe that I have to, otherwise, what's the point? She walked out before he could respond. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Maya threw herself into the certification preparation with renewed focus, every technique perfected, every drill polished, every recruit ready to demonstrate what they'd learned. Holt worked alongside her not as an obstacle anymore, but as a partner. They developed a hybrid curriculum that combined his traditional methods with her control-based approach. Arguments gave way to discussions. Resistance gave way to collaboration. Rivera watched the transformation with something like awe. Never thought I'd see the day, he told Maya during one of their morning runs. Holt actually asking for advice instead of giving orders. People surprise you when you give them room to grow. You surprised all of us, Commander. Walking in here with a broken arm and walking out with a command. Maya smiled slightly. I didn't walk out with anything. I earned it. Same thing in the end. The certification exam came on Maya's last day. The review board returned the same officers who'd witnessed her demonstration against Holt 3 weeks earlier. But the atmosphere was different now. No tension, no sabotage, just professional evaluation. Maya's recruits performed flawlessly. Every technique executed with precision. Every principle demonstrated with clarity. When Chen, barely 5'4" and 120 pounds, took down a Marine twice her size, using pure leverage, the board actually applauded. Holt led the final segment. He moved through the demonstration with confidence and control, his voice steady, as he explained the principles Maya had taught him. When he finished, the lead evaluator stood and shook his hand. Outstanding work, Sergeant. This program is a credit to the facility. After the board departed, Maya gathered her recruits one last time. You've learned everything I can teach you, she said, her voice carrying across the bay. The techniques, the principles, the mindset, but the most important thing, the thing I hope you never forget, is this strength isn't about domination. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to strike and when to redirect, when to win and when to simply survive. She looked at their faces, Morris and Chen, the 40 others who'd trusted her enough to learn. You're going to face situations where everything I taught you seems useless, where the enemy is bigger, faster, better armed. When that happens, remember the fight isn't always won by the strongest. It's won by the one who refuses to quit. Maya paused. Sergeant Holt will lead this program after I leave. Listen to him. Learn from him. He's earned that trust. She stepped back and saluted them. Every Marine in the room returned the gesture with precision that made her chest tight. Dismissed. They filed out slowly, many pausing to shake her hand or offer quiet words of thanks. When the bay was finally empty, only Holt remained. Hell of a speech, he said. Hell of a journey to get here. They stood in silence for a moment, Two people who'd started as enemies and ended as something neither had expected. "I'm not going to screw this up," Holt said finally. "What you built here, I'm going to protect it." "I know. And when your new team needs training," he almost smiled, "you know where to find me." Maya extended her hand. "It's been an honor, Sergeant." Holt shook it firmly. "The honor was mine, Commander." He walked out, leaving Maya alone in the reflex bay one last time. She stood on the mat, where she'd fought taut, proven herself. The same mat where Holt had cracked her arm, and she'd refused to break. Where she'd shown 40 skeptics that control beats force. Tomorrow, she would leave for her new command, new team, new mission, new battles. But tonight, she let herself feel the weight of what she'd accomplished here. She'd walked into Camp Pendleton as a broken warrior with nothing to prove. She was walking out as a commander with everything to give. The military transport lifted off from Camp Pendleton at 0600, carrying Maya toward her new command. She sat in the cargo hold, her duffel bag between her feet, watching the California coastline shrink through the window. Her right hand flexed experimentally. The brace was gone now, replaced by a compression sleeve that supported without restricting. 4 weeks ahead of schedule, the doctors had cleared her for light duty. Full operational status would come in another month. She wasn't worried about the arm. She was worried about everything else. The folder sat in her lap, the same one she'd studied every night for the past 2 weeks. 12 names. 12 operators who would become her responsibility. 12 lives she would lead into danger. First Command nerves. Maya looked up. Admiral Pierce sat across from her, having boarded at the last minute. "Something like that?" "Good. Nerves keep you sharp." Pierce leaned back in her seat. "I wanted to brief you personally before you meet the team. There's something you should know." "More intel on the Gulf operation." "No, about your team." Pierce's expression grew serious. 2 of the operators assigned to Phoenix are former Falcon members. They served under your predecessors before the unit was decommissioned. Maya's breath caught. "Who? Petty Officer First Class Marcus Webb and Senior Chief Daniel Torres." The names hit like bullets. Webb had been Jackson's best friend. Torres had been Morales' mentor during selection. "They requested the assignment," Pierce continued. "Both of them. When they heard you were taking command, they volunteered immediately." "Do they know what happened in Mosul?" "They know the official version, and they know you're the reason Jackson and Morales were brought home for burial instead of being left behind." Pierce paused. "They want to serve with you, Commander. That should tell you something." Maya stared at the folder, seeing the names differently now. Not strangers. Family. "Thank you for telling me, Admiral." "There's one more thing." Pierce reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small box. "This was recovered from Jackson's personal effects. He left instructions for it to be given to his next commanding officer if he didn't make it home." Maya took the box with trembling hands. Inside was a worn challenge coin, Falcon's original emblem, a black falcon in flight. "He believed in you," Pierce said quietly. "They all did. That's why they followed you." Maya closed her hand around the coin, feeling the metal warm against her palm. "I won't let them down." Naval Station Coronado was exactly as Maya remembered it, the salt air, the constant sound of training, the intensity that hung over everything like a second sky. She'd spent 3 years here before Falcon, before Mosul, before everything changed. Now she was back. Different. Harder. Ready. The Phoenix team was assembled in Briefing Room 7 when she arrived. 12 operators in Navy working uniforms, their faces a mix of curiosity and assessment. They'd heard stories. Now they were seeing the reality. Maya walked to the front of the room and set down her folder. I'm Lieutenant Commander Maya Reyes. You know my record. You know what happened to Falcon. What you don't know is why I'm standing here instead of someone else. She paused, letting the silence stretch. I'm here because I survived. That's it. Not because I was the best or the bravest or the smartest. I'm here because when everything went wrong, I didn't quit. And that's the only qualification that matters in this room. Webb spoke first. He was younger than Maya expected, with the same steady eyes Jackson had always described. Ma'am, it's an honor to serve with you. The honor will be earned, not given, by all of us. Maya looked at Torres, older, weathered, with the 1,000-yard stare of a veteran who'd seen too much. Senior Chief, Morales talked about you, said you were the toughest instructor he ever had. Torres's jaw tightened. He was the best student I ever trained. Ma'am? Then let's make sure his training wasn't wasted. Maya turned to address the full room. In 6 weeks, we deploy to the Gulf. Our mission is precision elimination of a terrorist network that's been planning coordinated attacks on American interests. We will be outnumbered, outgunned, and operating in hostile territory with minimal support. She let that sink in. Some of you will be scared. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Some of you will doubt whether we can succeed. Also good. Doubt keeps you humble. But when we step off that aircraft and into the fight, I need something more than fear and doubt. I need trust. Trust in the mission, someone asked. Trust in each other. Trust that the person next to you will do their job. Trust that when everything goes wrong, and it will go wrong, we will adapt, overcome, and bring everyone home. Maya pulled Jackson's challenge coin from her pocket and set it on the table. This belonged to my teammate. He died in Mosul getting me to the extraction point. Before that, he left instructions for it to be passed to his next commanding officer. She touched the worn metal. I'm giving it to this team. It belongs to Phoenix now, to all of us. The room was silent, every eye fixed on the coin. We train tomorrow at 0500, full operational simulation. I want to see what you can do. Maya picked up her folder. Dismissed. The operators filed out, but Webb and Torres lingered. Ma'am, Webb said, Jackson talked about you. Before every mission, he'd say the same thing. What was that? Follow Reyes. She sees what we don't. Webb's voice was steady, but his eyes were wet. I thought you should know. He walked out before Maya could respond. Torres stepped forward. Morales felt the same way. He said serving with you was the best decision he ever made. He paused. I trained that kid for 3 years, watched him grow from a scared recruit into one of the finest operators I ever knew, and he credited you for most of it. He was being generous. He was being honest. Torres met her eyes. Whatever you need, Commander. I'm here. I need you to help me turn these 12 people into a family. Can you do that? Torres almost smiled. That's what I do best. The weeks that followed were the most intense of Maya's career. She pushed the team harder than anyone had pushed her. 5-hour training sessions, live fire exercises in the dark, simulated ambushes that tested every skill they possessed. She broke them down and built them back up, weeding out weakness, forging strength. And somewhere along the way, she became their leader. Not because of rank, not because of orders, because they saw what she was willing to give everything, and they gave it back. Webb became her second in command, his tactical instincts complementing her strategic vision. Torres handled the new operators, teaching them the same lessons he'd taught Morales years ago. The others fell into roles naturally, each one finding their place in the unit. By week 4, they moved like a single organism. 12 bodies, one purpose. On the night before they deployed, Maya sat alone in the empty briefing room, studying the final mission parameters. The target was a compound in Yemen, the same region where the cell that killed Jackson and Morales had been operating. She hadn't told the team. Not yet. Couldn't sleep either. Maya looked up. Torres stood in the doorway, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. "Senior Chief, you should be resting. So should you." He set 1 cup in front of her and sat down. "Mind if I ask you something personal? Go ahead." "That compound, the one we're hitting tomorrow." Torres's eyes were knowing. "It's connected to Mosul, isn't it?" Maya was silent for a moment. "How did you know? I've been doing this for 22 years. I know when a mission is personal." He paused. "Does the team know?" "Not yet. I was planning to brief them in the morning." "They should know now, before we go in." Torres leaned forward. "These people are willing to follow you into hell, Commander. But they deserve to know why we're going." Maya looked at the mission folder, then at Torres. He was right. She'd known he was right since she first saw the target location. "Gather the team. Full assembly in 10 minutes. 20 minutes later, Phoenix stood in formation before her 12 operators alert and ready despite the late hour. "I called you here because there's something you need to know about tomorrow's mission." Maya's voice was steady, but her hands wanted to shake. "The compound we're hitting isn't random. It's the command center for the network that attacked my unit in Mosul. The same people who killed Jackson and Morales." A murmur ran through the group. Webb and Torres exchanged glances. "I should have told you sooner." "I didn't because I didn't want you to think this mission was about revenge." Maya paused. "It's not. It's about stopping these people from doing to other units what they did to mine. But you deserve to know the full picture before we step off that aircraft." Webb stepped forward. "Ma'am, permission to speak." "Granted. Jackson was my best friend. We went through buds together, served together for 4 years." His voice was thick with emotion. "When I heard about Mosul, I requested every piece of intel I could get my hands on. I've been waiting for this mission for 2 years. Another operator stepped forward, Petty Officer Sarah Kim, the youngest member of the team. "I didn't know Jackson or Morales, but I know what they meant to this community. Taking down the people who killed them isn't revenge, ma'am. It's justice." One by one, the operators voiced their support, their commitment, their willingness to follow her into whatever waited. Maya looked at their faces, the determination, the trust, the fierce loyalty she'd spent weeks building. "Then we do this together. For Jackson. For Morales. For everyone who's ever worn the trident." She placed her hand over her heart. "Phoenix rises at 400. Get some rest." They filed out, but the energy in the room had changed. No longer just a team. A family with a shared purpose. Torres lingered at the door. "That took guts, Commander. Telling them the truth." "They earned it. So did you." He nodded once and walked out. Maya sat alone in the silence, the weight of tomorrow pressing against her chest. She pulled out Jackson's challenge coin and held it in her palm. "Watch over us," she whispered. "Both of you." The compound was exactly where intelligence said it would be, a fortified structure in the Yemeni highlands surrounded by hostile terrain and heavily armed guards. Phoenix inserted at 0200, moving through the darkness like ghosts. Maya led from the front, her fully healed arm steady on her rifle. 6 months of recovery had brought her back to full operational status. 6 weeks of training had sharpened the team into a precision instrument. Now it was time to use it. They breached the outer perimeter without detection. Torres and his fire team cleared the guard posts, while Webb's element secured the extraction route. Maya and the assault team moved toward the main building. Phoenix 1, this is Phoenix 3. Outer ring is secure. Proceeding to secondary objective. Copy 3. Hold position until we give the signal. The radio crackled. Phoenix 1, be advised. We're seeing increased activity inside the compound. Looks like they're moving equipment. Maya signaled her team forward. The mission timeline had just compressed. They hit the main building fast and hard. Doors breached. Rooms cleared. Hostile contacts neutralized with surgical precision. Maya moved through the chaos with focused calm, every decision measured, every action deliberate. 12 minutes in, they reached the command center. 2 guards stood at the entrance. Kim took them down before they could raise an alarm. Maya stepped over the bodies and pushed through the door. The room was filled with computers, communications equipment, and a man Maya recognized from the intelligence photos, Hassan al-Rashid, the network's second in command, the one who'd ordered the attack on her unit. He looked up as she entered, surprise, giving way to something like amusement. "The ghost of Mosul," he said in accented English. "I wondered if you would come. On the ground, now." Al-Rashid didn't move. "They told me you died. When the building burned, they said no one survived." They were wrong. Clearly. He studied her with cold eyes. "You killed 7 of my men 2 months ago, the ones who planned the ambush on your unit. I assume you're here to complete the collection?" "I'm here to end this. Whatever comes next is your choice." Al-Rashid smiled. "You Americans, always so concerned with choice." He reached slowly toward his desk. "Let me show you what I choose." Maya fired. The round took him in the shoulder, spinning him away from whatever weapon he'd been reaching for. He hit the ground hard, screaming in pain. "Secure him," Maya ordered, "and sweep this room for intel. I want everything." Kim moved to restrain Al-Rashid, while the rest of the team searched the computers and files. Maya stood over the man who'd ordered the deaths of her teammates, watching him writhe in pain. "You should have killed me," he spat. "I'll never talk." "You will. Eventually." Maya crouched beside him. "But that's not my concern. My concern was getting here. Proving that no matter how far you run, no matter how well you hide, we will find you. And then what, another network will rise. Another attack will happen. You can't stop all of us. Maybe not. But I stopped you." Maya stood. "Phoenix team, we're done here. Begin extraction." They moved out of the compound as smoothly as they'd entered. 12 operators, 1 prisoner, enough intelligence to dismantle what remained of the network. 0 casualties. The helicopter lifted off as the first light of dawn touched the mountains. Maya sat with her back against the bulkhead, watching her team decompress. Webb was checking equipment. Torres was speaking quietly with the newer operators. Kim was securing Al-Rashid, her face professionally neutral. They'd done it. The mission that had seemed impossible 6 months ago was complete. "Phoenix 1, this is Overlord, confirming successful extraction. Outstanding work out there." Maya keyed her radio. "Copy, Overlord. Phoenix is coming home." She looked out the window at the rising sun painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Somewhere in that light she felt Jackson and Morales watching. "We got them," she whispered. "It's over." But she knew it wasn't really over. There would be more missions, more battles, more losses. The fight never truly ended, it just changed shape. What mattered was that she was still standing, still fighting, still leading. 3 days later, Maya stood before her team at Naval Station Coronado for the final mission debrief. 12 operators who'd walked through fire together and come out the other side. "The intelligence we recovered has led to 17 additional arrests across 4 countries. The network that killed Jackson and Morales has been completely dismantled." Maya looked at each face in turn. "You did that. All of you." Webb spoke up. We followed you, Commander. That's what made the difference. No. What made the difference is that you trusted each other. Trusted the training. Trusted that when everything went wrong, we would adapt and overcome. Maya paused. I've been asked to recommend personnel for commendation. My answer was simple. Everyone. Every single one of you performed beyond expectations. A ripple of appreciation moved through the group. But this isn't the end. It's the beginning. Phoenix has been designated as a permanent task unit. Admiral Pierce has authorized continued operations. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Which means you're stuck with me. Laughter broke the tension. Even Torres cracked a grin. Senior Chief, you're being promoted to Unit Training Coordinator. Webb, you're confirmed as Executive Officer. The rest of you expect new challenges, harder missions, longer deployments. Maya's voice hardened with purpose. We're going to be the tip of the spear, the ones they call when no one else can get it done. She reached into her pocket and pulled out Jackson's challenge coin. When Falcon died, this coin was passed to me. Now it belongs to Phoenix. She set it on the table. Whoever holds this coin represents everything this unit stands for. Control over force, precision over power, sacrifice over glory. Webb reached out and touched the worn metal. For Jackson and Morales. For everyone we've lost, Torres added. And everyone we'll save. One by one, each operator touched the coin, making it theirs. Making Phoenix complete. Dismissed, Maya said. Get some rest. We deploy again in 3 weeks. As the room emptied, Admiral Pierce appeared in the doorway. Outstanding work, Commander. The Secretary has been briefed personally. He wanted me to convey his appreciation. I'll pass it along to the team. You should pass it along to yourself, too. Pierce stepped closer. I've seen a lot of operators in my career. Leaders who inspire through fear, through charisma, through sheer force of will. But I've never seen anyone who leads the way you do. How's that? By example. By proving that the quiet ones, the ones who never give up, are the most dangerous of all. Pierce smiled. Get some rest, Commander. You've earned it. She left Maya alone in the briefing room. Maya sat in the silence, letting the weight of everything settle. 6 months ago, she'd walked into Camp Pendleton with a broken arm and a broken spirit. A woman everyone had written off as damaged, finished. Now she commanded the most elite special operations unit in the Pacific, had dismantled the network that killed her teammates, had proven that strength wasn't about size or power or dominance. She thought about Holt back at Pendleton, teaching recruits the same lessons she'd taught him. About Morrison and Chen carrying her methods into their own careers. About Webb and Torres and the Phoenix team, who'd trusted her with their lives and watched her bring them home. She thought about Jackson's last words on that burning street in Mosul. Keep going. Don't stop. She hadn't stopped. Not when they broke her arm. Not when they tried to end her career. Not when the weight of loss threatened to crush her. And she never would. Maya picked up the challenge coin and slipped it into her pocket. Then she walked out into the California sunshine, ready for whatever came next. Because that's what Phoenix did. It rose from the ashes. It transformed destruction into strength. It proved that endings were just beginnings in disguise. Lieutenant Commander Maya Reyes didn't survive because she was lucky. She survived because she refused to break. And in refusing to break, she showed the world what real strength looked like. Not the strength that shouts, the strength that endures, not the power that dominates, the power that lifts others up, not the victory that destroys, the victory that transforms. They tried to end her. They failed. Because you cannot end someone who has already decided to rise. If this story moved, you subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories. Share it with someone who needs to hear that quiet strength is still strength. Comment below and tell us who in your life carries that same unbreakable spirit. Their story matters too.